adjusted to him, and he's back getting people out again. Had good outings against the Yankees. And so I think those two guys, and Kyle Gibson being as consistent as he was in terms of inning in, inning out, having good stuff and throwing it for strikes for the most part. The next step that Kyle Gibson has to make is really cut down on the walks. He just loses the command every once in a while. But if he were able to do that, in 6 or 7 innings, walk one guy instead of 3 or 4, he's a 15-game winner. There's based on the way he has, the consistent way that he's pitched, given some modicum of run support that he didn't get this year. So yeah, I think there have been some guys that we talked about this earlier. What do you look for in the second half of the season? You look at each guy and say, what does this guy have to do to make strides toward the things that will make him an awful lot better? I think those guys have stood out as the guys that have done that.
Let's get a final thought from Roy. If you listen to the programs anywhere across the network, please download before you listen. It's better listening experience. You won't be subject to the vagaries of Wi-Fi, and it's also good for our business, and we appreciate it. Also, thanks to producer Brandon Morton. One interesting thing about Jake Cave, as you look at splits, his lefty-righty splits are pretty dramatic. He's basically got an 847 OPS against right-handed, 619 against lefties. So it tells you that, those are star level. That's a star level OPS against right-handed pitching, and left-handed pitching, it's not as good,
not so
obviously,
good.
But a little bit of improvement on that side would turn him into an everyday player.
Yeah, I think that the thing about Jake Cave that's he's clearly and that's why I said whether he's an everyday outfielder for the Twins or not really has to do with the fact that the Twins are a left-handed heavy lineup. They need Buxton and Sano desperately for all the reasons that we've talked about, for all the obvious reasons. But not the least of which is they need those two guys to be strong right-hand hitters against left-handed pitching because, Rosario, Kepler, they've got, Mauer, Polanco's better at left-handed than right-handed. So, their strength is against right-handed pitching. And so they need all the help they can get against left-handers, which means that Jake Cave is behind a little bit because he's left-handed. If he were right-handed and the splits were opposite, he'd have a better chance. But I think he's made himself a fourth outfielder against right-handed pitching, a platoon player for some team. I think he's made a case if someone would have a right-handed hitting outfielder that was not great defensively. And they said, well, heck, if we platoon these two guys, Cave's going to give us some pretty good defense and hit right-handers really well. I think he's made a case for being that kind of big league player. Now, the playing time he gets on the Twins is, like I said, is absolutely dependent on Buxton and Kepler because they like Kepler's defense, and we know about Buxton. So it's all about those two guys in terms of Jake Cave.
We'll do a little more talk about Major League Baseball and the pennant races as a whole next week. I do want to emphasize talknorth.com does have the best lineup in Minnesota. You have Roy, Cheryl Reeve, Michael Russo, John Krasinski, now Jeff Diamond, the former general manager of the and former executive of the year in the NFL, former general manager of the Vikings, Jeff Diamond. We have too many hosts to list right now. We continue to add shows. Check out talknorth.com. Check out Roy on Twitter at Roy Smalley 5. Roy Smalley, the numeral 5, and you can catch Roy, of course, when he does his broadcast with FSN, whether it's pregame, postgame, or game action. I guess I was about to ask you for final thought. I think you've already given it. Do you have a musical selection or anything else you want to throw at us today?
I don't think so. I lose track of some of the musical suggestions, and I try to think of things that maybe people haven't heard a lot. What with the amount of broadcasting I've been doing lately and my regular business, I just, and my grandkids, I haven't been listening to an awful lot of music lately, but something just occurred to me, and I think we talked about this song a long time ago, so if anybody didn't take advantage of the suggestion, or for new listeners, check out a John Mayall tune called "Sensitive Kind." It's a great bluesy number. I've been a John Mayall fan since I was in high school, and the original "Room to Move." Well, check out "Room to Move." It's just a great. So, all right, here we go. John Mayall put together a band back in late '60s that included two guys, John Mark and Johnny Almond, that would become the Mark Almond Band. That did some really cool, kind of under the radar stuff. You check out the Mark Almond Band. They've got some really cool stuff. But Mayall did this great little harmonica piece called "Room to Move," and he does the mouth percussion before it became part of hip hop music. He was doing a bunch of chicka 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 stuff with his harmonica, and Johnny Almond plays flute and does some mouth percussion with him in this one little deal. So check out "Room to Move." It's an old John Mayall song from way back there, but you can find it. It's pretty cool. But then Mayall's been continuing to produce music for a long time, and in the '80s. He did an album that was real bluesy, and I don't remember the name of the album, but this song called "Sensitive Kind." It features Sonny Boy Williamson on the acoustic slide guitar and Coco Montoya, a cool little blues, electric guitar blues riff in there, and of course Mayall singing and playing the piano. It's a cool song, and so I would recommend checking those out.
My recommendation is go check out Little Feat. Some of my favorite songs by them: Dixie Chicken, Two Trains. Also, Bonnie Raitt does a great cover of All That You Dream.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.